Welcome back to the channel where we explore, learn, and theorize about the Marvel Universe. Today we're going to be talking about Charlie Cox in Spider-Man 3 as Daredevil, Killmonger returning in Black Panther 2, and plot leaks for both Ant-Man Quantumania and Blade. If you're new to the channel, or even if you've been watching for a while, make sure you subscribe because more than 96% of you guys aren't subscribed. And if you think you're subbed, double check because apparently there's a glitch where people are getting unsubscribed from certain channels. And remember that a subscription is free for you, but it really helps the channel a lot. And you can always unsub later if you want. Now let's get started. In an interview a couple days ago, Kevin Feige was asked about the Netflix Marvel characters and when we would see them in the MCU, and Feige said that they were on the board. But then Brandon Davis, a writer for comicbook.com, stated that Daredevil was more than on the board. And at first it was unclear if he had some inside information, so I assumed that it would be announced in the next few days, and I was right. On his podcast called Phase Zero, he said that Charlie Cox has already been on the set of Spider-Man 3, but it's unknown if he's just gonna appear as Daredevil, if he's gonna be Peter's lawyer and show up as Matt Murdock, or if we'll see him as both. And then yesterday he published an article saying that comicbook.com has learned that Charlie Cox was indeed on the set of Spider-Man 3. So of course take this with a grain of salt, given all the characters and rumors that have been circling recently regarding Spider-Man 3. But hopefully we will see Charlie Cox return as the Man Without Fear, even if he is just a lawyer. And it's rumored that he could appear alongside Krysten Ritter's Jessica Jones in She-Hulk, which is supposed to come out a couple weeks after Spider-Man 3, meaning that we won't have to wait too long to see him again. And on that same podcast, Phase Zero, Brandon Davis talked about a conversation he had with Kevin Feige 3 years ago, saying that 3 years ago Kevin Feige told comicbook.com that if there was a board of Marvel characters with immediate potential to make a debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Nova would be a character on that board. Flash forward and a massive slate of movies and TV shows have been announced by Marvel, but Nova is nowhere in sight. Richard Ritter nor the younger version of the character Sam Alexander have been announced as part of the MCU just yet. And when asked if Nova would be a character with a standalone movie or supporting role, along with the question of will it be Richard Ritter or Sam Alexander, Feige simply said, well yes, and yes. And this seemingly indicates an all of the above type scenario, as Feige recognizes that pretty much all of the Marvel characters are gonna inevitably make their way to the MCU at one point or another. Then Feige said timing is relative. I think I had been talking about Doctor Strange 8 years before that movie came out, so immediate potential is relative. But clearly we're not shying away from the cosmic end of storytelling right in the sweet spot of the Nova Corps and Nova himself. So it seems like Feige and the crew at Marvel Studios have Nova in mind. And a version of the character's origin story was all but laid out by the moments which preceded Avengers Infinity War, with Thanos laying waste to Xandar and likely leaving Richard Ritter as a sole survivor who inherits the Xandarian world mine and power the entire Nova Corps as a result. However, Nova was ultimately cut from the opening scene of Avengers Infinity War, along with other characters like Beta Ray Bill and the Silver Surfer. Next, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Ethan Hawke will play the main villain in Moon Knight, however it's unclear which character that will be. Moving on, Fandom Wire exclusively reported that Michael B. Jordan will be returning for Ryan Coogler's Black Panther 2. And this may confuse some fans given that Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger seemingly died at the hands of his cousin T'Challa at the end of the first film. While the details of how Michael B. Jordan will return and the size of his role are still under wraps, we can confirm that he will return for the sequel. While our sources confirm Michael B. Jordan's return, they can't yet reveal how he will return. But judging by what we know so far, there are multiple ways he could come back. Flashbacks are possible but seem unlikely, given how much plot there is to get through in the sequel. As we previously reported, Shuri will ultimately take the Black Panther mantle, and both Namor and Doctor Doom will be introduced, so fitting in Killmonger flashbacks seems odd. A multiverse version of Killmonger is also possible, and with word of Chris Evans returning as Captain America, as well as our previous report on Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield returning as Spider-Man, Marvel is betting big on multiverse characters. So perhaps Michael B. Jordan will return as an Elseworld version of Black Panther from a separate timeline. But the most likely scenario is that he didn't fully die. He's also been resurrected in the comics by the Mandarin and even his own followers, so he could come back as he does in the comics to reclaim the throne. And with T'Challa gone in this new scenario, that would make sense. T'Challa spared his life, so perhaps they'll give him a redemption arc to help Shuri earn her place as the Black Panther. Next, Casey Walsh, the editor-in-chief over at Geeks World Wide, tweeted expect to see a version of this in Loki, as well as a guest appearance from a very different God of Thunder. So since we know that Loki will travel through time to fix what the Avengers messed up in Endgame, maybe one of his missions sends him to the future where we see the Thor Corps which has been rumored to appear in Thor Love and Thunder. Also, the TVA elevator was deciphered, and there was an alternate Earth with an evil version of Thor, which could be one of the places Loki has to go. Next, we have some plot leaks for Ant-Man 3 and Blade coming from 4chan. So like always when covering anything from 4chan, take it with a grain of salt, as it could be completely fake, but it could also be fully or partially right. So here's your spoiler warning if you don't want to know anything about these movies. According to this anonymous user on 4chan, the release date for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is currently set for October 7th, 2022. Luis, Kurt, Dave, Paxton, and Maggie will return. Ghost and Bill Foster, aka Goliath, also have roles in the film. The movie will be a road trip style film to the Quantum Realm versus Kang. Robbie Baldwin, known as Speedball or Penance, will be introduced as Cassie's boyfriend, and Timothy Chalamet is the name I heard wanted for the role. Reed Richards will be introduced in a small yet pivotal role, and they're talking to John Krasinski about the role. Peyton Reed and Paul Rudd also want Rick Moranis for a cameo, but it's unknown for which character. Next is the plot leak for Blade. The movie follows Blade as he attempts to prevent Dracula from obtaining the Darkhold, an ancient book of spells which Dracula plans to use to make his followers invincible and conquer the world. The Darkhold had been hidden on another dimension for centuries, but resurfaces on Earth after the Scarlet Witch disrupts the multiverse. The key to the Darkhold is Elsa Bloodstone, a young woman whose family has guarded the Darkhold for generations. Blade rescues her from Dracula's followers and becomes a protector, mentor, and surrogate father. Their relationship will be the emotional core of the movie, which has been described as a supernatural superhero, The Professional. The villains are Dracula, Deacon Frost, and Cullen Bloodstone. Frost is Dracula's enforcer and the vampire who attacked Blade's pregnant mother and caused Blade to become a Dampier. Cullen is Elsa's older brother who was corrupted by Dracula into betraying his family. The Brides of Dracula are also featured as a trio of deadly assassins. The supporting characters include Jamal Afari, Marianne Afari, Gabriel Afari, Saffron Calder, and Jimmy Landry. Jamal is an aging blind vampire hunter and Blade's mentor. Marianne is Jamal's daughter and Blade's surrogate sister who runs a nightclub with criminal connections. Gabriel is Marianne's son and a talented musician who develops a bond with Elsa. Calder is Blade's ex-girlfriend who works as a police detective, and Landry's her partner. Blade's powers include enhanced senses, rapid healing, peak physical attributes, immunity to sunlight, and he's less of a martial artist and more of a tactical operator. He's also Creole rather than British, and the movie mainly takes place in New Orleans. The directors eyed by Marvel Studios are Barry Jenkins, Terrence Nance, Rick Famuyiwa, and Gina Prince Bythewood. While casting won't really begin until they have a director, Anya Taylor-Joy, Elle Fanning, and Samara Weaving have been named as templates for the casting of Elsa Bloodstone, and there's active interest in casting Regina King as Marianne Afari and Morgan Freeman as Jamal Afari. For Dracula, producers plan to cast an A-lister, with some possibilities including Joaquin Phoenix, Javier Bardem, Michael Fassbender, Daniel Craig, and Mark Strong, among others. No decision has been made yet, but there's active discussion on the possibility of making it a lower-budget R-rated movie, not as ingrained to the greater MCU as the more conventional project, similar to what's being planned for Deadpool 3. And lastly, it turns out that even though I watched WandaVision's first 2 episodes 3 times yesterday, there were still things I missed. So once again, if you don't want any spoilers, then click off the video now, as there will be some minor spoilers for the first 2 episodes. Anyway, in the animated intro for episode 2, we see Vision getting ready to go to work, and as he faces through the floor, we see the Grim Reaper's helmet. And if you zoom in on Agnes throughout the first episode, you can see that her button has a Reaper on it, and her husband Ralph was nowhere to be seen in the first 2 episodes, even though he was mentioned plenty of times. So it's very possible that Agnes's husband is the Grim Reaper. And in the story featurette, we saw pictures of Wonder Man, and when Wanda's in the grocery store in the animated opening, we see Wonder Oats, Bova Milk, and Auntie A's kitty litter. Now, like I explained yesterday, Bova Milk is a reference to Bova, Wanda's nursemaid in the comics who was a cow, that got mutated by the High Evolutionary. Auntie Agatha is what Franklin Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and the Invisible Woman's son called Agatha Harkness, plus she has a black cat called Ebony, hence the kitty litter. But I missed the last one, Wonder Oats, which is also clearly a reference to Wonder Man. And I didn't know this, but it turns out that Grim Reaper and Wonder Man are brothers, and they both have deep connections to Vision in the comics. At the end of the animated opening, you can see another character who many people, including myself, missed, the Wizard. On the table next to the lamp, there's a statue which resembles the lesser-known Speedster. And lastly, on the toy helicopter Wanda finds in the bushes, you can see the number 57, which is a reference to Avengers number 57, where Vision was first introduced. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were a ton of other Easter eggs that we missed, so let me know if you found any other ones. And let me know what you guys think about all this. Are you excited to see Charlie Cox return as Daredevil in Spider-Man 3? Would you like Killmonger to return in Black Panther 2? And what do you think of the plot leaks, especially the Blade one? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you'll never miss another video. Thanks for watching, and remember to wash your hands and stay safe.